Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get Can Lit, a podcast that showcases Canadian authors. I'm your host, Maria Zupardi, an avid Can Lit reader, and keep on listening to find your next favorite book today. Thank you, everyone, for joining me for the newest episode of the Get Can Lit podcast. Before I get started in what I want to talk about today, I just want to thank everybody for commenting, following, and sharing the first episode of the podcast. I'm really surprised at the response this is getting because I don't know, to me it's just Canadian authors are always just underrated, I think, in the general public. And to have so many people like listen and say, "Oh, I added this book to my TBR," or "I put this book on hold because of your first episode." Like it was just so nice. So thank you everyone. Keep that energy up because, so today I'm going to give a general reading update and of course talk about Canada Reads because that's just been on everybody's mind. At least it's been on my mind also since November because I've been wondering about it. And then we're going to pick another book from the TBR jar and we'll call it a day. All right, so in case you didn't know, or I know I kind of briefly mentioned it, but I do work in publishing. I work at Dundon Press. So my current read is a book for work, and that is These Days Are Numbered by Rebecca Rosenblum. It is a pandemic memoir, kind of, but to my understanding, Rebecca wrote this. Well, I mean, they're mostly like daily updates from her Facebook, and they were converted into this book. And it is just, remember when parks were closed and all that other stuff? Like, it's just bringing me back so many memories, but it doesn't have a fear or scary vibe about it. It's very chill, very funny. I've laughed with every page, so I'm really enjoying it so far. I should know the release date by now, but I don't. So I know it's coming out in summer. At least it's definitely in our summer catalog, I think. So, but anyways, I will talk about it later as the pub date comes up, but just know that it's a really great book. And that's like my non-biased opinion. Yeah, or else I would not be spending my time telling you about this book far in advance of pub dates. So just know that it's really great. And another really great book I read for work that was my first actually finished book of 2023 was The Bliss House by Jim Bartley. Now, this is a fall release and it's very gothic, very cool, very mysterious. I really loved it. So, again, I'll probably talk about it at some point very, very far into the future because it's only January and I'm already reading like summer fall books. But, anyways, so that was like a little work update because those books need to be read first. She has an event or a book launch at Indigo Young and Eglinton, which I'm so sad I can't make it to, or else I would have loved to go. So if you're listening to this early enough and you have time to make it to Young and Eglinton tonight, you probably should because it's going to be an amazing event, and I'm sorry I'm missing it. So I was able to read or I guess listen to the audiobook thanks to the Libro FM program for advanced listening copies. McClelland and Stewart, shout out to Anita. She sent me the physical copy of the book and I'm so happy. It made my day and it's such a beautiful book in real life. I'm sure you've seen the cover like on Indigo's website or I think it was just in the Toronto Star as well for like, or maybe was it Toronto Star or Globe and Mail? One of those. It was in a newspaper, and the digital or the printed cover does not do the physical book any justice. So when you're in a bookstore, pick it up, love the cover, buy it, and then read it because the book is amazing. I really loved all the pop culture references and how her family life, or I guess her childhood was in Vancouver, moving into adulthood and then divorce and then, the this new period in her life kind of thing. And she also talked about her fiction books. I swear, oh my god, as soon as I finished Superfan, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go order these books, her fiction books. I think she has an edited anthology, which I didn't order, but I ordered all of the other, like all of her previous releases. And luckily I did it through Book City because I'm a loyalty member. So I got basically all those recent purchases I made, I got a $5 off coupon in the mail because you pay like $20 for this loyalty membership and then you get discounts on books. And when you reach a certain level of points, I don't know how their point system works, they'll mail you like a physical $5 coupon, which is so fancy. So yeah, this is my first year being like a loyalty member and I'm very impressed. I love it. So thanks to Jen Suk Fong Lee, because now that I ordered your books, I have $5 off of Book City, which I can go buy more books with. But yeah, I think it's a very important look into Asian Canadian identity. I think that I'm kind of sad this didn't make or wasn't considered for Canada Reads. I don't know, I think that it would have been a good year for it, but there's always next year because Canada Reads doesn't have any pub date limitations, so we could even see this book on it, like, 5 years from now, who knows? But I highly, highly recommend it. And if you can get the audiobook, even if you're not like a fan of audiobooks, I'm not a fan of them, to be honest. I rarely listen to them. And this was like if it's a nonfiction read by the author, like it's easier for me to follow along, especially at night. Like if I'm too tired to hold a physical book and I want to play like a few games on my iPad. That's what I'll do. Like I'll play my games while I listen to an audiobook and it was really easy to follow along. I laughed. It made me sad. And another book you should read, which if you listened to my first episode, you would have learned about it, is The Centaur's Wife by Amanda Leduc. I think January is perfect for magical realism. I loved the book so much. Thank you to the Canlit TBR jar gods because like it was such a win of a novel and such a great way to start this TBR jar idea because I didn't, I'm such a mood reader, so I hate being told what to read, when to read it, what order to read things in. So this was a total win. I can see why not everybody will like it. I think you really need to sit down and have an open mind about the story and just, let things flow. Just let it go. And, I liked the themes of climate change. I loved the made up fairy tales weaved throughout the story and how, the fairy tale that was being told kind of foreshadowed or alluded to a few events that were coming up like in the next or in the following chapters. So I think it was really well written. Maybe we'll get lucky and Disfigured will be picked out from this TBR jar next, but we will learn that at the end of this episode. So, keep listening. And I got oh, you can hear it, I think, dragging, but I did get more book mail, and yeah, just wanted to talk about it quickly. So, I did say that I was sent Superfan by Jen Suk Fong Lee, and I also received A History of Burning by I would love that one as well. So, I have high expectations for it, and if you look at the author's Instagram because, there's different, publishers involved. So there's a UK publisher, a US publisher, and the Canadian one, of course, and they all have different book covers, but they're all really beautiful. Because you know how usually, like, one is way better than another one? Yeah, that's not the case with this book, so I think it's all I just love the whole look that's kind of uniform throughout, so I think it's very beautiful. I do think that Canada has the best cover, but that's just me. So that book comes out in May, and I'm very, very excited. I can't wait to read it. I hope to read it soon. I'll probably save it till like April though, because or else then I'll forget and then I won't read it. That's the life of a bookworm. I also was sent in mid to late December a package from Ontario Creates, which was just to highlight some recent winners of their Trillium Awards. So I got The Last Exiles by Anne Shin, which I'm told is a very beautiful novel. And I also got Intruder, which is a poetry book by Barida Sinai. I had already put both of these books in my TBR jar, so fingers crossed that they are picked. So these are both Ontario authors, and The Last Exiles is a searing portrait of a young couple in North Korea and their fight for love and freedom, which is very interesting. And then Intruder is a debut collection and presents a world beset by precarity, illness, and human sprawl. So I feel like it's very classic House of Anansi poetry. Is this textured paper? I think where was this printed? Sorry, I have I have issues. Oh, I don't think it says. So, if you ever have a Coach House book, they have a very textured paper that's like, I think it's their specialty paper. I'm not a fan of it. So it looks like was either printed on that paper or something very similar, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. You can send me a DM on Instagram or just like comment on the most recent post about my judgment or my issues with textured paper because I don't know. I can't be the only one out there that doesn't like it. But anyway, so that's how it's printed. Maybe I'll just borrow the the ebook from the library and just read it that way instead because I don't know, I hate it. And book buys, recently I bought Cut Road by Brent Van Stalduinen. This is published by Guernica. It's a short story collection. Honestly, Brent has two books with Dundurn. I haven't read them, but like I've heard about them, I've posted about them. I was kind of just getting on I think, yeah, I don't think I've ever met Brent, which is sad, but I'm like, well, I'm gonna wanna read one of his books. I easily have access to the other 2, so I think I should just get this short story collection and, maybe this will kickstart my Brent reading marathon, but this book is going into the TBR jar because, of course, it's a 2022 release, so who knows when I'll read it. And then there's a very popular 12 books by 12 friends reading challenge on Instagram, and one of my very good friends on there she told me last year to read this book, and then she told me again this year to read this book. For full context, 2022, I failed this challenge. I didn't even read one of the books on that list. So I'm determined to make it happen in 2023, and hopefully I'm going to start it by reading Looking for Jane by Heather Marshall, which I know is coming out in the States pretty soon, and I know there's a lot of excitement over that book, so yeah, I should probably get on the hype train for this. We love a successful Canadian debut author. So as far as I know, this takes place in 2017, and then another timeline of 1970-ish, and then another one of 19, again, like 80-ish or something. So I know it goes back and forth. It is about some kind of letter that was found, and I think someone's trying to discover who it was for. I don't know. I don't know too much about the book. All I've heard are amazing things. And yeah, so I'm excited. I think this is going to be a real good 5-star read. If you have read it, obviously let me know, please, because I'd like to hear more opinions than my one friend who's just like beating my head with this book. Just hurry up and read it. So yeah, but that book is not going to go into the TBR jar because again, it's for a reading challenge. And the last book I pre-ordered because okay, I pre-ordered this book even though it is HarperCollins, Canada, but we're going to support Canadian authors no matter what. If you're in the States, you can always buy HarperCollins books through the bookshop.org like HarperCollins Fund or their bookshelf. If you go on the HCP Union Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever they have, you will find links for everything you need there. So this is another debut. And again, like was starting to say before I interrupted myself, I read the Quill and Choir feature on this and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna wait till I go into a bookstore to buy this. I'm just gonna pre-order it because it comes out in like a week or 2. So yeah, that's how this book came to be in my hands, and that is Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. It is horror. Again, it's a debut. Speaking of which, I do run a debut book club on the Fable Book Clubs app. So if you're part of that or if you want to be part of that, right now in January, we're reading another book. But spoiler for February, this is going to be my February pick. So I would love if you can join me on that if you're interested. Just download the Fable app, create an account. If you go on my Instagram, Reading Maria, then you'll find the link for that. So yeah, that's a spoiler for February. And you guys will be the only ones who know because you're listening to this episode. But yeah, I thought it seems to be a really quick read. It sounds very buzzy. And if you look at the book in real life, it's got like a shiny finish to it, but it's still a matte. Like it's still matte. So like I don't know what treatment they gave this book cover, but I'm so happy that I didn't wait to. It has a lot of really great endorsements from other authors that I know of and love. So yeah, it's definitely a book to watch and one to read, I think. All right, so that's all the updates I have for you in terms of what I'm reading, what I've read, and what I've got or received. I just wanted to quickly talk about Canada Reads because, again, like I said before, it's on everybody's mind. I will be honest, I had prepared something else for this episode, but I think like I didn't know Canada was going to be released until like last week, or no, was it this week? Who knows at the time anymore. But anyway, so I'm like, you know what? Let's ditch those plans and let's just get into this Canada Reads list because of course there's always questions with it. But I think this is a much improved list than last year. So there are 15 on the long list. 6 of them are from independent presses, which I'm happy to see. We always love to see a good broad range of presses on these types of lists, unlike last year. So you have Ducks by Kate Beaton, Reverie, A Year of Bees by Jenna Butler, Half Bads in White Regalia by Cody Caetano, Greenwood by Michael Christie, Blood Scion, I believe that's how you say it, by Deborah Falaye, Hannah Khan Carries On by Uzma Jalaluddin, All the Seas of the World by Guy Gabriel Kay, which, oh my gosh, am I the only one who didn't know this author was Canadian until now? Where have I been for the past like 5 years or something? Who knows? Moving on, we have Dandelion by Jamie Chai Yun Liu, We Were Dreamers by Simu Liu, Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, Finding Edward by Sheila Murray, Hotline by Dimitri Nasrallah, We Spread by Iain Reid, Moon of the Crusted Snow by Waubgeshig Rice, and then finally Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. Like I said, improved list. We've got a lot of genre on here. We have a romance novel, we have fantasy, dystopia, 4. I think from my count, I could be wrong, but for nonfiction. So I'm just gonna tell you my predictions of the long list, or sorry, of the short list, and hopefully I'm right. I have a few that I want to read, but I don't know if I'm gonna get through all of them. But anyways, I think I would really love to see Ducks by Kate Beaton on the short list. Like, I think it was on like the New York Times list. Like I said this in the my previous episode, it had that kind of really big name lists from the States. I don't think it made too much in Canada, so I think that it would be great to have a graphic novel on the short list. Will it be the only graphic novel? I don't know. I'm gonna assume so, because I don't know the history of Canada Reads too much. I've only just started getting into it, like, 3 or 4 years ago, so haven't looked too much into past winners and all that stuff. But again, like, I think that it's getting like, it's known in the US, it's time for it to be a lot more known in Canada. I think that's my thinking behind this. How many times have I said think already? So that's why I'm pretty sure it should be on the short list because, again, depending on who is on the jury, chances are they're an internationally known star or something, and they would have heard about this already. So, yeah, that's why I'm leaning towards it. This was hard to narrow down because, like, I think Greenwood by Michael Christie will be on it because it's already pretty known. I didn't know what else because even though there's more genre on here, I don't see it being a full genre type of shortlist. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they have it here, but I feel like those books would just be pushed aside after when the jury members pick their books. I just feel like something rooted in nature would be a good draw for the jury and something that they can debate about. I don't know. I just have a feeling. I hope I'm wrong because, like, I don't know nothing about this book and I would prefer to see something else on the short list, but this is just where my brain is going. Next up, I really think Dandelion by Jamie Chayan Liu would make it. Even though it's short stories, I think it's an underrated book already in Canada. I haven't read it, but this is just based on reviews I've seen. I kick myself for not having read this book by now because when I had Kobo Plus, shout out to Kobo for giving me access to Kobo Plus, I had this book downloaded and then I got rid of my Kobo Plus subscription. And then this book went away with that, sadly. So I have it. I was so lucky to get an ebook copy from the library or from Libby. So I definitely plan on reading this soon because I feel like this is just a sign that I was meant to read this book. So I think that Arsenal could do it again and there should be more anti-representation on Canada Reads. But again, not gonna get into it. See, I think again, because the jury is more likely to like draw in listeners and all that stuff, and they're probably more international based than Canadian based, that's why I really think We Were Dreamers by Simu Liu would also make the list, just because of his name and, his recognizability and all that. I think I don't know anything about the book, but I feel like that's a book that the jury be drawn towards no matter who it is. Do I care for it? No. I would much rather prefer to see Mexican Gothic on the shortlist, but I don't think it'll make it. All right, the last book that I predict is Moon of the Crusted Snow by Waubgeshig Rice, or Mr. Rice, as I like to address him as, like, and of course, I think that again, a jury member would probably pick Station 11 because even though it doesn't need the national attention, it has a TV show and, it's popular and it's Emily St. John Mandel. But I think Moon of the Crusted Snow with the sequel, I believe, coming out with Penguin soon, probably in the fall. It's coming out this year in 2023 at least. I think that it would be greatly encouraged to have this book on the shortlist, which I hope it makes it because I don't think it has any national awards, even though it's been everywhere. I'm just looking it up on my computer. Here in Ontario, at least, it's very well known. I don't know about other provinces in Canada. Let me just see. So yeah, okay, it's a national bestseller, but like it was just the winner of the OLA Forest of Reading Evergreen. It was shortlisted for another award. I don't know what that is. Is that a Writers' Trust thing? Or maybe, I don't know. It was also shortlisted on the First Nation Communities Read Indigenous Literature Award, is on like a Burlington Library selection. Hamilton Reads One Book, One Community selection. So it has a lot of Ontario-focused award attention and publicity, but it's definitely not reached the national level. Like, I know a lot of people who are like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that book, but I haven't read it yet." So like, I think because it would do it a lot of benefit to be on the on the short list. I would hope that the jury does the right thing and puts Mr. Rice on the short list because again, like it's like Scarborough, right? It's just like the underdog. People have heard about it, but they haven't. They might not have necessarily read it. So yeah, I think it absolutely should be on the short list. If it's not, then I'm not going to read any of the short list. I'm just putting that out there. So that's the one book I feel very, very strongly about. Again, like I just wonder why they would put two pandemic fiction novels on it. One of them is a big name, one of them is not. And like I don't know, I feel like there's always ulterior motives with CBC, but who knows? I'm no expert. Like I said, I've only really seriously started following Canada Reads for like 3 or 4 years now. So I'm pretty sure like all of my predictions are wrong. All right. You hear that noise, so that means it is time to pick out my next Canlit Read book from my TBR jar. So let me open it up. Great, it wasn't as loud as last time, I'm happy. Last time it scared me because I have my headphones plugged into my microphone, and then I just, like, popped the jar open, I'm like, "Oh, wow, that was very loud." But anyways, let me mix this up a little bit. Oh, one fell out, so we'll just do that one. And if it's a short book, I'm going to pick out another one because why not? So the TBR jar has given me How to Love Your Neighbor. I just need to look that up because who knows what it is. Oh my god, it's a rom-com. Oh great, I needed a romance book. How to Love Your Neighbor by Sophie Sullivan. Oh, it's a follow-up to her debut book, and it is a slow burn romance with a home improvement backdrop and an enemies to lovers twist. I'm already in love. Okay, great. I feel like I got this book in a book box. It might have been the Hush Bug box back when I was repping like this time last year. So yeah, I feel like that's where I got this book from. So this is amazing. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I won't pick out another book because I think, yeah, even though it's a romance and I can read it quickly, who knows when I'll get to it. So I don't want to be like scrambling before the next episode trying to finish these books. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening to my rambling thoughts on Canada Reads. Shout out Canada. I hope you have been reading some really great Canadian books lately, and I hope I gave you a new book recommendation. Thanks for listening to the Get Canlit podcast, a show that's all about what Canadian authors you need to read next. Don't forget to rate, review, and follow on your favorite platform, and watch out for new episodes every other Tuesday. You can find me on social media at Get Canlit Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and at Get Canlit Pod on Twitter. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.